All right, the Advisory Council on Hearing Aids meeting is convening at 9:04 a.m. on May 20th, 2022 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon by telephone conference call. I will now call roll. Myself, Doug Welsh, I'm here. Tiffany Parrott.
Here.
Lorraine Herret. Lorraine.
Here.
Can never say your name, Lorraine. I'm sorry. Jean Herret. Okay. I'll have to have you repeat that later. Jean Herenden.
Verheiden here.
Okay, thank you. Board members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Public members wishing to speak must first sign in on the roster sheet available. The public members calling in on the public phone line, please email April Fleming at april.fleming@dhsoha.state.or.us and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public and interest parties' feedback period, if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocol when conducting board business. This meeting is now called to order.
All right. So first thing I want to just mention is that we are right at quorum. So if anybody drops off, we're going to have to keep an eye on that. We'll lose quorum if anybody drops off for whatever reason. So we'll just have to, like I said, keep an eye on that. First item is approval of the agenda.
This is Tiffany. I move to approve the agenda.
This is Lorraine. I second.
Okay, a motion has been made. I'll call the roll. Doug, myself. Tiffany Parrott.
Aye.
Lorraine Enriquez.
Aye.
Jean Herribaden.
Verheiden, aye.
Verheiden, I'm sorry. So sorry, Jean.
Doug needs to
It's all right.
vote too.
Oh, and then you need to vote as well, Doug.
Hang on. I'm losing you in my microphone. Yay, I'm voting.
All right. So that's so moved. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand over the director's report to Ann. She's a little more familiar with it than I am. So I'm just gonna turn over to Ann.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Ann Thompson. I'm a policy analyst here at Health Licensing. I'm actually filling in for Bob Bothwell, who is the new interim director. Sylvie Donaldson has taken another position, so she's not with us anymore. And Bob is out today. So you've got Ann and Trampus. Couple of other things. We have a new program that the legislature gave to health licensing. We're going to start the licensing of temporary staffing agencies. These are businesses that provide nurses, nurse assistants to hospitals and long-term care facilities. And that will go into effect July 1 of 2023. But because time means something different for government than everyone else, that seems like a very short period of time to get that going. We are now open. We're doing live testing and our lobby is open for the first time in over 2 years because of COVID, but we're back up. People can just walk in and renew their license or take a test without an appointment. And the other thing is, as Trampus mentioned, we're right at quorum. Board vacancies. We have a vacancy for a hearing aid specialist. If you know anyone who's interested, all of the application is on Workday. It's all online now. We have an opening for a consumer and an audiologist. And we do have 2 interest forms for audiologists. So we're hoping that the governor's office will appoint one of those positions. But if you know anybody else, who's interested, either a consumer or hearing aid specialist, you can direct them to Workday, the governor's office, or Derek Foltz, who is the new executive assistant here, and he can help them get the process started, understand it. So are there any questions from board members on the director's report? Hearing none, we can move on, if you like, to the reports. I don't know, did you guys all have a chance to look at them in advance? I hope you did.
Yes, we did. I did.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. It's great when you do that. So your numbers are pretty steady. Your renewals, I'm looking at page 9 of 25. The vast majority renew online. On 10 of 25, as we've discussed before, you have a nice spread of ages. You've got 3 licensees that are 18 to 25 and 1 that's 82 to 89, and everyone else is kind of right in the middle, and that's nice. It's not like you have a whole bunch of young people coming in and you don't have a whole bunch of people ready to retire that are skewing the reports on the other side. So that's nice. Your license volume trends are pretty steady. If you notice the blue line, and at the bottom, you've got trainees and temporaries, which are the people that have finished their training but haven't taken their exams. All the numbers are pretty steady, which is pretty good. And then starting on slide 1225, you have this crazy report on testing. And I know it's a very busy report, but the council has expressed interest in seeing all the separate parts of the exams and how people are doing on the exams, which leads to a very informative and busy chart. So do we have any questions? Your fiscals look really good. We're getting dialed in. Our goal is to have the revenues and the expenditures about the same. That way you're not taking in more money or you're not going into the red. You got a nice cushion, which is nice to have in case we have something that goes to hearing. If we have a bad case and it goes all the way to an ALJ, an administrative law judge, that money will disappear really fast. So does any of that concludes? I know we went through that pretty fast. Does anybody have any questions on the reports? Man, crickets.
Right.
Yeah, everything sounds pretty
Okay.
good.
Ms. Verheiden, did you have a question?
No, I just had no questions from
Oh,
Verheiden.
okay. Fantastic. You guys are great. So I'm going to hand everything back over to Trampus, who's going to do the regulatory report and see us into the next section of the agenda.
Hello, everyone.
Hello again.
So I'm going to scroll down to the regulatory report. Regular report, as you can see, there's still 3 biennium cases on here. We have some older cases that have yet to be resolved. I know that personally, I have a handful of these, and can tell you that several of them are basically ready to close. I just didn't get the time to finalize the paperwork on them before this meeting. So, but I can say that those cases are well on their way in that oldest biennium, and we're just working through all of those. I don't know if anybody has any questions about this report. You guys have probably seen it similar over the last board meetings, but if there's something that you have a question about, I'd be happy to try to answer it.
I do have a question. This is Welsh, Doug. How far do you go back if someone was to make a complaint? Say it's like 4 years old, 5 years old.
Well, if somebody were to make a complaint about a situation that occurred 4 or 5 years ago, we would still give it our due diligence and look at it. I don't know that we have a policy, hard and fast policy for saying that a complaint or situation that involves a complaint is too old. I can't think of a time we've ever had one that was more than 3 or 4 years old, when we first even got it. But yeah, I don't think we have a strict policy on that. We don't really have any kind of jurisdictional issues with things being older as well that I know of.
Okay.
Like statute of limitations, that's the word I was looking for. I don't think we have anything like
That's
that.
That's what I was wondering. You're in the office now, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay. I proctor, so I'll probably run into you up there
Okay,
in July. I may have to talk to you.
all right.
All right, no problem.
Any other questions about the complaints or the regulatory report? Okay, if not, then we can just move on to the next session. We have a discussion about a regulatory case. And it just happens to be a really old regulatory case. This case actually was resolved and completed in 2011, 2012. And it was, I don't know, has everybody had a chance to look over this settlement agreement and this situation?
This is Doug, I have, yes.
So the reason that we're even bringing this back around to you guys is, and I'm not sure, like I said, what details you got about why that you're even looking at this case, but the situation is this person, as you can see in the settlement agreement, and actually the attached notice that I don't see here, is he was a supervisor for some temporary licensees, and there was this was the result of the settlement agreement was the result of a notice that we sent out that was that he did some things that were, failure to supervise, basically signing off, that kind of thing. And what we had originally was going to assess a civil penalty for it, and we ended up with this settlement agreement. And this settlement agreement basically says that every 6 months he has to send in an attestation that he hasn't supervised any temporary licensees. And he has been doing that since 2012, every 6 months. And the thing that's a little bit that we're actually needing to talk about in this particular situation is that the settlement agreement requires him to do this whether he's actively licensed or inactive. And inactive, just means that he hasn't renewed his license, and for 3 years after he hasn't renewed his license is the definition of inactive. So he has to continue to do that. He has retired, and he's requesting that we're looking to see if we can amend this settlement agreement in such a way that he doesn't have to continue to report to us that he's not supervising anyone now that he's, retiring, or it has been retired for like 6 months or a year or something. So that's what we're looking at. I think that probably the simplest modification, the least modification we could do to this settlement agreement, I think, would be to just remove the word inactive. So if his license is inactive, he doesn't have to report. If it's active, he does have to report. That would be probably the simplest thing we could do to make this accommodation if we were going to do that. And we're just basically bringing this to you because, as an advisory board, we need to get your, what your advice on what we should do on this. So that's what we're bringing it to you for, seeing if you guys had any thoughts on it, or that's something you didn't feel you just wanted to do, or something you did, and if you wanted to do something else. So I'll open the discussion back up to you guys and see what you guys or you all want to talk about it.
Okay. This is Lorraine.
This
I
is
have a
Tiffany.
question. Oh, go ahead.
Go
Tiffany.
ahead, Lorraine. No, you go.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have a question. If we were to put forth an amendment that says if his license is inactive, he doesn't have to report, but you said before that that's a 3-year, if the license hasn't been renewed in 3 years, then it is inactive. So does that mean he would have to do this for an additional number of years until he's officially inactive?
Good question. I kind of breezed over that a little bit, so I didn't really explain it. So I'll explain the kind of we have a kind of a legal and definitions of what expired means, what inactive means, what active means. Obviously, active means that they're able to practice. That's what you have to have your license in to be able to practice. Inactive is from the first day to 3 years. It's that time period from day 1 to time period of 3 years after you have not renewed your license. So your license has an active through date. The next day, if it's active through, January 31st, on February 1st, it becomes inactive, and it will remain inactive for 3 years. On February 1st, 3 years later, it will become expired. And the big difference between inactive and expired on our end, and to a licensee who this happens to, just means that during that inactive period, they can typically, and different boards are different, but typically you can pay your back licensing fees, you can pay a late fee, fulfill any continuing education requirements or whatever that you have to do for renewal, and then you'll be able to get your license back. If you become inactive or expired after that 3-year period, you become expired, and that means that you're going to have to reapply. Doesn't mean that you have to necessarily go back to school, but you may have some testing requirements. You may have to retake a practical or take a written examination or prove certain things. So it's just kind of like you've been gone for 3 years. We want to kind of requalify you and make sure that you're going through that process again. On the regulatory side, it can mean different things, but that's kind of the framework of what those words mean specifically for when it comes to the health licensing office and for all the boards and councils that are under us. So this individual, for example, has to report whenever they're in active status and able to practice, or inactive status, and basically that 3-year period between being active and having their license expire. The big expire where you have to completely requalify. I would be speculating as to why they put that in here. There are people more likely to slip into expired status, as an oversight or whatever, and continue to practice, whereas people that have slipped into expired status are, that's more rare. I think that somebody's just been practicing for 3 years with an inactive license, but it happens. But I don't know why they put in inactive. I don't know the negotiations and the thought process that went in. This was a long time ago, and the people that were involved are gone from the office, at least.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Tiffany, and I think you answered my question, but essentially, if someone is inactive, they can't legally even practice, so they
Correct.
shouldn't be supervising, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Hi, this
Cool,
is
thank you.
Hayden. I just have a quick question. When did he become inactive?
I believe it was end of last year. I'd have to look up the exact date.
So he filled out a report.
Showing it to me.
He's filled out a report since becoming inactive, is what you're saying?
Yeah, he went inactive on 11/30/2021. And I believe he did fill out a report. And I think that that maybe what spurred this 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 discussion.
This is Tiffany. I mean, if it was in 2012 that this settlement was made, I mean, it's nearly been 10 years that I'm assuming he's faithfully filled out his report.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I mean, I know we're going to vote and talk about it, but it seems reasonable if someone's retired that they wouldn't be supervising and therefore wouldn't need to continue doing business like filling out the report. And you're suggesting we just remove, this is Tiffany again, remove the word inactive. So if for some reason he did activate his license and start practicing again, then he would be required to send in the statement.
Yeah, I mean that would, like I said, that's kind of the least modification we could do to have him not report and keep the rest of it in place. Yeah, exactly. And if we were to remove the word inactive, then if he were to reactivate this settlement agreement would continue to be in place. I mean, there's lots of options we could do. I mean, they run the gamut. We could, from anything from completely withdrawing it to just saying you don't have to report ever, regardless of your status, to, no, we're not going to do anything. I mean, we could do lots of different things. I just was kind of throwing that out there as a discussion point and kind of the easiest thing that would leave this in place and have him not have to report while he's inactive.
This is Verheiden again. How detailed is this report? Is it like a one-page thing where he just signs an affidavit, or is it like a 10-page report he has to fill out? I'm just trying to get the complexity of it.
No, it's a one-page like declaration that he signs. It doesn't have to be anything detailed. It just is basically saying I'm not supervising anybody and I haven't supervised anybody in the last 6 months.
This is Doug Walsh. I think this is a good situation that he doesn't have to do it after his inactivity. So I think you guys did a great job at it. Kind of relieves the burden off him, but he's been doing this for over 10 years. As long as he doesn't do it and he stays inactive, that's fine. So
This is Verheiden again. The board at the time most of them choose the situation very precisely as to why they would choose active versus active and inactive status. That's my only concern. And at that time, they probably heard a whole bunch of, the whole story, whereas we're not hearing the whole story. So I'm a little hesitant, but that's just my 2 cents worth.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on this? So I guess we probably want to kind of maybe see if you guys are kind of at some kind of a consensus as to, or if somebody wanted to make some kind of a motion to, either modify this or not modify it, or. just
This is
give up.
Tiffany.
Mhm.
I assume that each of these things are, case by case basis. So we're making a decision specifically on this individual case, not
Yeah, so
setting some kind of precedent moving forward, correct?
right, yeah, and
Exactly.
this is kind of I don't want that. Well, it's a unique case. I don't have any other cases that I know of that are similar to this, where we have this um, this reporting requirement that goes on for I mean, ever, as long as he's licensed or inactive, he would have to report. I don't know of any other situations like that. And we don't have any, I don't think we have any other outstanding ones with your guys' board. Yeah, so we would be basically, I mean, everything we do with regards to these cases kind of sets a standard, kind of says this is what we did in this case or that case. That's just the nature of setting civil penalties or setting disciplinary action. So this was a settlement agreement. The original notice was for a civil penalty, and that civil penalty was actually, I believe at the time, would have been in rule. So it was like a set civil penalty that was kind of predetermined by rule. So I mean, I can't even guarantee at that time that this case, because it was a civil penalty set in rule, would have been brought to the board for that type of for the determination of a civil penalty. It may have been brought to you guys to determine if you thought that the violations were valid. But I don't, this was long ago and with players and people that are no longer with the office. So this is kind of going to what I'm not sure who was talking, Gene, maybe, or Lorraine, about that the board made this decision kind of deliberately. I can't say that is 100% the case, because this was 12 years ago, and they could have done this based off the civil penalties, and it may have gone to the board, or I don't know. So it would be hard to speak to what the board was thinking about on this case and on the settlement agreement. It was a completely different board at the time as well. So I mean, different makeup. So.
This is Tiffany. I feel like if he's faithfully done it for 12 years, he's retired and not currently practicing, that it would be reasonable for us to change it to remove that word inactive. So I make a motion to remove the word inactive license from his settlement agreement.
Tiffany, this is Heather Vogelsong. I'm just going to jump in real quick on that motion. I think we may need to alter the language to say that it's an active license instead of just removing inactive, just the way that it's worded. So I'm wondering if you can make a little bit broader of a motion that the requirement only apply if he has an active license, if you wouldn't mind, if that's what your intent was behind your motion, to have that be a little bit broader.
Yeah, for sure. So this is Tiffany again, and thanks, Heather. I make a motion to amend the agreement to state that the report only needs to be submitted if he is holding an active license.
Do we have a second?
This is Henriquez. I second that motion.
This is Doug Welsh. A motion has been made. I'll call the roll. Doug Welsh, yay. Tiffany Parrott.
Yay.
Lorraine Harigas.
Yay.
Jean Verheiden.
Verheiden, nay.
All right, that motion carries. Right, I think the next thing we have on the agenda is public or interested parties feedback. Do we have anyone on the public line? Did you happen to send your information to April that you were attending?
No, I think.
Okay,
We
I
can't-
appreciate you. Yeah, he's. Oh, I was just discussing. He's sending in his notification that he was here. So, but he does not have any public comment at this time. Yeah, and that just moves us along to other council business.
Is there anything anybody wants next agenda?
Is there anything that anybody wants to have on the next agenda?
Oh, if
Yeah.
all done,
That's
Doug can
easy.
see us out.
Yeah, if that's it, then Doug can close out the meeting unless there, like I said, unless there's anything that anybody wants to bring to the next meeting for a discussion.
I'll go ahead and close it out.
All right.
The Advisory Council on Hearing Aids meeting is adjourned at 9:35 a.m. May 20th, 2022.
All right, we'll see you guys in October.